The movie begins with Private Robert, who deserted from the army and found refuge on a tropical island. Suddenly returns to his unit, hiding among the local population, created the illusion of a peaceful life away from the war, but he is sent back to the army. He joins Company C, which is sent to Guadalcanal, a key island in the Pacific, strategically important for Allied military objectives. This island is of great importance, as its capture will help strengthen the Allied forces' position in the region and weaken Japanese influence. Upon arrival on Guadalcanal, Company C faces harsh conditions. The island's climate is hot and humid, making it difficult to move and establish defensive positions. The dense jungle filled with tropical plants and snakes makes visibility poor and makes it difficult to spot the enemy. In addition, constant rain and dampness make life difficult for soldiers, making it hard for them to move and work. Captain James Starros, a company commander, is ordered to attack a strategically important hill where Japanese artillery positions are located. This hill is critical to securing control of the island and preventing attacks on Allied forces. Starros realizes that carrying out this order will result in significant casualties among his soldiers. He begins to question the feasibility of the attack, feeling morale pressure and worrying for the lives of his subordinates. Starros looks for ways to reduce casualties and propose alternative plans, but faces stiff resistance from his commanding officers. Private Witt becomes a key character in the movie. He represents a figure who strives to find meaning and peace in the midst of war. His philosophical reflections on life, death, and human nature contrast with the brutal reality of combat. Witt tries to maintain inner peace and human dignity despite the horror around him. He finds solace in socializing with the locals and observing nature, which helps him cope with the psychological tension. Witt's inner thoughts are often displayed in the form of voiceovers, which give the viewer an insight into his inner world and attitude. John Bell, another important character, also plays a significant role in the story. He has a deep sense of duty to his subordinates and strives to perform his duties with utmost responsibility. Bell is under pressure from both the commanding officers and his soldiers. His attitudes toward war and command become complex, and he experiences moral and psychological difficulties. Bell tries to remain humane and maintain the morale of his team despite the horrible conditions. When the moment of attack arrives, the soldiers of Company C begin their advance toward the hill. At first, they face strong resistance from the Japanese troops who have entrenched themselves on the hill. The thick jungle and poor visibility make the battle even more difficult and grueling. The Japanese soldiers are firing brutally, and the advance becomes slow and costly. Every step requires tremendous effort, and the soldiers of Company C face heavy casualties. The attack on the hill becomes a real test for the soldiers. Many of them are killed or seriously wounded. Physical and moral exhaustion increases, and their faith in the meaning of their actions begins to waver. Soldiers face the brutal realities of war, and each advance requires tremendous effort. Many of them begin to question the expediency of following orders and the meaning of war itself. As they storm the hill, Witt and the other soldiers face internal conflicts. Witt continues to seek solace and meaning in nature, observing the world around him and reflecting on life. His philosophical musings become an important part of his existence and interactions with other characters. Witt's internal conflicts and his attempts to find meaning in the midst of war have a significant impact on his perception of what is happening. Lieutenant Bell also experiences deep internal conflicts related to command and the need to sacrifice soldiers to carry out orders. He faces moral dilemmas and psychological difficulties related to his role in the war. Bell tries to cope with the pressure and maintain his human dignity, but inner torment and fears become part of his existence. After a long and agonizing battle, Company C finally captures a strategic high ground. However, the victory is not as sweet as expected. The casualties among the soldiers are high, and many of them end up severely wounded or dead. This leaves the soldiers with a deep sense of loss and emptiness. They realize that victory at one stage of the war does not bring final relief, and their struggle continues. After capturing the heights, the company continues its advance across the island. The soldiers face new problems and dangers. Their moral and physical condition deteriorates, and they begin to realize the senselessness of war and the suffering it brings. This experience forces them to rethink their goals and their place in the war. Internal conflicts and feelings of loss become important aspects of their existence. The movie concludes with the fact that the soldiers, despite their achievements, are left with deep feelings of loss and meaninglessness. They realize that war leaves deep wounds not only on the battlefield but also in their hearts and minds. Their experiences and inner conflicts continue, and the war remains in their minds as a continuous test. They realize that their struggle and suffering will not end with one victory, and that war has a lasting impact on their lives and destinies. The movie is thus a profound and multi-layered exploration of human nature against the backdrop of war. Through the inner conflicts and moral dilemmas of the characters, the movie reveals the complex aspects of war and its impact on individuals and society. The events at Guadalcanal serve as a backdrop for deeper reflections on human existence, suffering, and the search for meaning amidst the horrors of war.